Namaskar. This is David Hawthorne at astroview.com. Today is the 9th of March, 2022. The following is the update Vedic astrology reading for Ukraine. I am using the Samba Horoscope, which is the system's approach to mundane Vedic astrology, which uses the 24th of August, 1991, at 5:31 p.m. in Kyiv, Ukraine. Now, I am using this system's approach to Vedic astrology paradigm for reading the horoscope. This gives the Capricorn Rising sign, Makar Lagna. It's a movable sign and an earth sign. It has a beautiful Saturn in the first house in its own sign of Capricorn. This is Shani and Makar. This is a Kendra, so Saturn becomes a Panch Mahapurush Yoga, one of the 5 great yogas. This one's called Sasha Yoga. This is very good for leading the masses, work ethic, and involvement in things of the earth like oil, gas, minerals, and agriculture. Because Saturn rules the second house, it brings wealth and status to the country through its own self-initiatives. And the favorable moon is in the first house. If moon was over here, it'd be directly opposite sun. That would be a full moon. So this was a day before the full moon, maybe hours before the full moon. Moon rules the 7th house of relationships, partnerships, joint ventures, and foreign lands, and it's in the first house. This is a good combination. Under systems approach, Shani, Chandra, Shukra, Budh, and Mongol are all favorable planets. Saturn, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. They will never cause harm. This is not, contrary to popular belief in India, this is not the dreaded Sati Sati. That's the 2.5 years when Saturn transits before the moon, 2.5 years on the moon, 2.5 years after the moon. Shani can never cause harm for Capricorn Rising. It rules the chart. It rules the house of wealth and status and family life, and it's a Panch Mahapurush Yoga. So astrologers that think that this is a Sati Sati, they are not using their brains. Sorry. Moon would never cause harm. It rules this 7th house, a Kendra. Those that think the 2nd house and the 7th house are Marika houses, death-inflicting houses, are also not using their brains. 2nd house is wealth and status and family life. 7th house is relationships, partnerships, joint ventures, and marriage. We want these to be favorable. We want them to be strong. If a person has good wealth, status, and family life, if they have good marriage and partnerships, then they have time for God. These are not death-inflicting houses. Some classical astrologers are just not awake. This is why I love the work of Professor V.K. Chowdhury and his son, K. Rajesh Chowdhury. They developed systems approach. Beautiful paradigm for reading horoscopes. So let me not go there right now. Let's get back to the chart. For Ukraine and for any Capricorn rising sign, we cannot strengthen the 8th house ruler, Sun, and we cannot strengthen the 12th house ruler, Jupiter. The 6th house, the 8th house, and 12th house in every horoscope, these are called Dustan Bhavas. These are inauspicious houses. Planets going into the 6th, 8th, and 12th become weak unless they rule that house. So Sun actually is okay in this house because Sun rules this house. But K2, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, Rahu are all considered badly placed. Mars is weak in infant state degrees, less than 5 degrees. It is in Kanya, Virgo, ruled by Bud. So this drags Mars also into the 8th house. Mars is military, property, domestic peace in the country. It's ruled by Mercury in the 8th house. 8th house is not a favorable house. It's called Randra. Transformations, vulnerability, setbacks, delays, disappointments, accidents, and even death-like experiences. So a lot of stress here. Sorry. I'm glad that Rahu and Ketu at 24 degrees are not close to the most effective point. The rising sign degree is not an arbitrary number. 0 to 30 is possible in every house. This number changes every 4 minutes of the day. It's very specific to the exact time of birth. Planets within the 5-degree orb of this number have an impact in the houses they occupy and aspect. So it goes up to 7 degrees, and it starts at 27 degrees in this house. There's no line in the zodiac. Forget these lines. We go by degrees. So the most effective point starts at 27 degrees here, and it goes up to 7 degrees here. This is why I like Saturn. It's within that 5-degree orb. So technically it blesses the first house. Its 3rd, 7th, and 10th aspects are also favorable. But Rahu and Ketu at 24 degrees are benign in this chart because they're not within that 5-degree orb. And the 5th, 7th, and 9th aspects of Rahu are benign. If planets are not within 5 degrees of each other by conjunction or aspect, there's no impact. So Rahu does not bother these planets. Ketu's 5th, 7th, and 9th aspect also benign. So that's not a problem. But this is the problem. Sun becomes known as most malefic planet, ruling the 8th house. If there was no Mul Trikona sign in the 8th house, then the most malefic planet would be the ruler of the 12th house. If there's no Mul Trikona sign in the 12th house, then the most malefic planet would be Ketu. In this case, Sun is the most malefic planet. It is slightly within the 5-degree orb. I'm not too overly concerned about that, but I am concerned that it causes combustion of Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter. And it's definitely within 5 degrees of Venus, and it is causing trouble for Mercury and Jupiter as well. Jupiter rules the 12th house, so it's a functional malefic planet, along with Sun, Rahu, and Ketu. Jupiter at 2 degrees is closely afflicting Mercury, ruling the 9th house of good fortune, divine grace, guru. And this also undermines the strength of Mars, ruling military, property, and domestic peace. Jupiter is also closely afflicting Venus, ruling the 10th house, which is karma, career, the field of action, professional life. So this was a very difficult chart. It would have been good, it would be very good if a country or any business would use the systems approach of Vedic astrologer when doing something important in life. So whether we're taking a wedding vow, or starting a business, or launching a space shuttle, or getting sworn in as president, we need to elect a good Muhurta at a very auspicious date and time when the horoscope is pure and free from afflictions. Then we have smooth sailing in life. There's a horoscope for every moment of the day. As I'm speaking right now, if a baby was born, there would be a horoscope for that baby. If that horoscope is afflicted, then that child will have suffering in life, even from the beginning. If the horoscope is strong, then the person has much smoother sailing in life. But there's a horoscope for every moment, so don't do things that are important in life arbitrarily. Find a systems approach to Vedic astrologer, and have them help you with an auspicious date and time. It's called Muhurta. So this chart was not good for that country being born, because of the badly placed Venus, Mercury, weak Mars dragged into the 8th house, all under the affliction of both Sun and Jupiter. In classical Jyotish, this would be considered Papakatra Yoga, in the scissors. No matter which way they turn, they're cut. Now we also consider the Mahadasha. We don't need to go 3 levels deep, 4 levels deep, 5 levels deep when reading charts. We don't need to use more than the Vimshottari Dasha sequence. Some astrologers will use several different dashas, and they'll go 5 levels deep. Professor Chowdhury used to say those astrologers using so many techniques are on a ring road in Delhi, traveling in circles. They never arrive anywhere. We want to arrive somewhere. So we simply take the Mahadasha ruler, that's the general trend. We take the Antardasha ruler, that's the hands on the clock, current operating planets, and then we overlay the transits. We see everything. So this is very unfortunate because Guru, Jupiter, is the Mahadasha ruler. And where is it? It's badly placed. 8th house, Dustan Baba. It rules the 12th house. It drags the 12th house into the 8th house. This is never good. Never good. Because there's no protection for losses, expenses, separation, confinement, hospitalization, end of life, and foreign lands. It's weak. Weak Jupiter. And it's a malefic planet, so it's afflicting Mercury and Venus. And look at Jupiter, 2 degrees, 2 degrees. This is serious. So Jupiter afflicts the house it occupies and the houses it aspects. However, planets cannot afflict their own houses, so we can skip that one. But Jupiter is afflicting the 8th house, death-like experiences. Jupiter's 7th aspect into the 2nd house, wealth, status, and continuation of family life. So this causes discontinuation of family life. And Jupiter's 9th aspect into the 4th house, destroys property and domestic peace. Difficult, very, very difficult. By the way, if Ukraine can survive until September 2029 or rebuild, this would be a much, much better 19 years of Saturn, Panch Mahapurush Yoga, Sasha Yoga in the 1st house. Shukra, the Antardasha Venus, is favorable, rules the house of career, karma, field of action. But where is it placed? 8th house of death-like experiences. Obstructions, delays, transformations, vulnerability. Afflicted by Sun, ruling the 8th house. Death-like experiences. Not good. Some can argue that, Mercury supports Venus. Yes, to some degree. But how can Mercury give much support to Venus if Mercury is utterly annihilated by Jupiter and combust? So it doesn't give protection. It can't give protection. This is a very, very difficult situation. And unfortunately, next to Sun. Into March 2024. We also want to consider the transits. We love Saturn in Capricorn. Take the Saturn at 25 degrees, slide him over here. He's sitting right here. He's close to the moon. This is helpful. Moon rules foreign lands, partnerships, joint ventures, So Saturn is supporting that with wealth and status. So Saturn is trying to help. It's not the Sati Sati, sorry. Now Saturn will be in this house until the end of April. It's going to move here for May, June, and in the first 2 weeks of July. That might be nice relief. It does come back into this house for 6 months, but that's a favorable house. And then Saturn returns here at the end of January 2023 for 2 years and 2 months. Fabulous. Saturn in his own Multricone sign of Aquarius. That's very favorable under systems approach to Vedic astrology. This has been a problem lately. This is the transit chart. Look at Jupiter and Sun conjunct. What's the problem with that? Jupiter rules the 12th house, Sun rules the 8th house. So 2 functional malefic planets in a planetary war. Let's take a look at when this began, and let me show you when it's going to expire. So this is the birth chart. This inner circle is exactly the same birth chart. Outer circle is a transit chart. Here are the degrees. Sun 24, Jupiter 21. Let's go back in time here. Let's go back a week. When they're within 5 degrees of each other, it's not favorable. So February 27th is when this started to apply. It's 1419. Within the 5-degree orb. February 27th. A week later, 21, 100% affliction, March 6th. So that's been this week. Terrible. So let's pull it. Let's get it away. We need to get it within 5 degrees away from Jupiter. Sun 5 degrees away from Jupiter. This is the beginning of some relief right here. March 12th, 3 days from now. That would be helpful to some extent. Now, this Venus-Mars conjunction has been really tough worldwide. Now, for Capricorn, they're favorable planets, so I'm not overly concerned about that. But what happened was that Rahu came into play here. First off, for Capricorn Rising, look what happened to Venus and Mars. We go back to January 15th. Venus was already retrograde in the 12th house, but Mars entered. Now that's military, that's property. So again, the 12th house is a Dustan Bhava. Planets transiting the 6th, 8th, or 12th house in any chart, 6th house, 8th house, 12th house, become weak. So the favorable planets lack the power to protect and promote their own significations. So this is not good. This is January 18th. Let's see what happened here. They started getting closer and closer together, but in the 12th house. No relief. This is February. Now look what happens here. In order for them to get out of this house, they have to go over Rahu. 24-degree Rahu right here. So here's Venus and Mars clearly within the 5-degree orb. It's February 13th. Look at this, February 19th, 100% affliction here. So this is toward the end of February. Now, they've come into Capricorn, which is an even sign. 0 degrees and 0 degrees. Why is that a problem? Because Rahu also in an even sign at 1 degree. So this transit Rahu here, it was exalted in Taurus. It's sitting right here at 1 degree. It throws an aspect 5 houses away, 7 houses away, and 9 houses away. So they come out of this terrible 12th house, pull into the favorable first house, but they immediately come under fire with Rahu. Unexpected calamities, this tremendous eclipse, stress. So we need to get them away from each other. Venus moves faster than Mars, but look how close they stay together, 6 degrees. So finally, this is around March 6th, some little bit of relief from Rahu. But look over here, Sun and Jupiter. So if it's not one thing, it's another. So you have this problem here. So I'm really hoping that when Sun and Jupiter clear around March 13th from each other, then this might help, because now we've got Mars as a Panch Mahapurush Yoga in the first house, along with Venus. So I'm really hoping that we can see some relief here. Now Sun will go 29, 30, 0, 1, 2. So Sun was going to go over the most effective points. So maybe we have to move him a little bit more. Let's get him up to 7 degrees in the next sign. That's going to be better here. That's March 22nd. Now Mercury's going over Jupiter there, but Mercury's fast moving, so that's okay. So somewhere around March 22nd, 23rd, 24th, there might be a little bit of relief there. Let's look at this here. This is fine. This is fine. Now then, Rahu and Ketu have moved into odd signs, Aries and Libra. So they spend 18 months in even signs. So the even signs are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So Rahu and Ketu will throw an aspect in the houses they occupy an aspect. So during the 18-month period, sooner or later, Rahu and Ketu will cause trouble for the moon, for Rahu and Ketu, for Saturn, for Sun, for Venus, for Mercury, for Jupiter. Well, that 18 months is just about to expire. Oh, I'm sorry, that's odd sign, so I misspoke. So they would cause trouble for Saturn and Moon and Mars only. So now they're going to go into the odd signs. So what planets are in odd signs? So the odd signs are 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. Now they always travel retrograde, backwards. So when they enter a house, it'd be 30 degrees. Takes 18 months to get through. So they exit at 0 degrees. So the good news is nothing here at 29 degrees. "29 degrees is still a little close to the most effective point, so we probably want to get it down to 27 degrees. But I do know they go stationary at 28 degrees coming up for about 3 months, March 31st. I'm not overly concerned. If they were stopping at 2 degrees, 1 degree, 0 degrees, I'd be really concerned. But I think we have enough space here that it won't be too difficult. Okay, we've covered a lot here. So I hope this helps with your understanding of systems approach and how this applies to country charts, like an individual or marriage chart or company chart, that type of thing. Most importantly, I think it's really important right now that everybody in the world, as much as possible, focus on their spiritual practices, their prayers, their yoga, meditation, pujas, yagas, mantras, whatever it is that they do, religion. We need more Vedic chants. There's a lot of Vedic chants going on right now in India for Ukraine and to stop this war. So hopefully the TM organization has some yagas going on. So check around and see if you can get involved or support any of the yagas, Yagyas, any yagas that are being done anywhere in the world. Support those pundits. They do Vedic chants just for hours, and it should help. But the main thing is that if everybody puts a lot of light, a lot of positivity, a lot of attention, we really do hope for the end to war as soon as possible. I wish you and your families all the best in health, happiness, peace, and prosperity. Namah Shivaya.